What's up, Knicks fans? Welcome to another edition of Knicks Latest, your go-to YouTube channel for everything New York Knicks related. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, drop a comment. I want to know what you think about this past weekend. Knicks going to Denver, winning big, then going to LA and laying an egg. We'll talk about that in a second. Like I said, make sure you subscribe. Want to hear your thoughts on that. Want to talk about something different other than the Knicks today. Now, obviously, it is New York Knicks related, but a very big thing has happened in this league, and that's Jason Tatum returning to the Boston Celtics. I think this has to do with the Knicks indirectly because it obviously affects the New York Knicks title chances. You know, throughout the whole season, we were talking about how this Eastern Conference is going to come down to, the Detroit Pistons, the New York Knicks, and maybe the Cleveland Cavaliers. For a while, it seemed like a two-team race between the Pistons and the Knicks. The Cavs did not have their act together. They've gotten better recently. They've gotten more healthy. They traded for James Harden, and now they're looking like a contender. Well, guess who just beat them over the weekend? Jason Tatum, the Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum is back, and now we have to start talking about the Boston Celtics once again in the conversation to win the Eastern Conference. This New York Knicks team has been through a lot this year. They have had their ups. They've had their downs. They've won the NBA Cup, and throughout it all, they have remained, I wouldn't say a favorite or a media darling, but they have remained a contender to win the Eastern Conference in a lot of people's eyes. And Jason Tatum coming back has kind of just changed all of that. That's kind of flipped a lot of the narratives, a lot of the rhetoric on its head. You have someone like Nick Wright going on television proclaiming that he's picking the Boston Celtics to win the whole thing. And for good reason too, right? You have a team that pretty much has been the 2 seed for the past month or so. Organization that is used to winning. You have a finals MVP in Jaylen Brown and someone who is an MVP candidate this year, leading an undermanned Boston Celtics team to a 2 seed, which is better than the Knicks, better than the Cavs, and you return Jason Tatum, and now you have a team that basically, even though it is a little different than last year's team, is a team that people had favored winning the whole thing last year. And now they're pretty much back. And that changes a lot of things, right? That gives you another team you have to go by, maybe in an earlier round. It gives you, it's just a totally different landscape now in the Eastern Conference, and it's something that we have to start talking about as Knicks fans. I don't think a lot of people have taken Boston seriously enough up until this return of Jason Tatum, and going forward here on this channel, whenever we talk about the East, how it's going to be won, and threats, and not just to win the East, but to win the whole thing, Boston has to be mentioned. So just had to acknowledge that landscape here. Unfortunately, it is what it is. This is not going to be an easy path to the NBA Finals. When this season started, we're talking about how the Indiana Pacers were missing Tyrese Halliburton, how the Celtics are missing Jason Tatum, and how we're going to have gap years for two of our most heated rivals, essentially. Two teams we faced in the playoffs last year. And now it's no longer looking that way. The Knicks are going to have to go through it this year to win the East. And in order to do that, they're going to have to play like the team that played in Denver on Friday night. That team looked like they could win the NBA Finals. That team is a team that a lot of people are picking to represent the East in the NBA Finals. That's the team we want to see. A team that is swarming on defense, running off of misses, turning you over, using everybody knowing their role. OG Anunoby had a huge game. Josh Hart rebounding after a pretty bad game. Jalen Brunson didn't have a good shooting night, but he was spraying the basketball around. He was passing the rock. Everybody seemed to know their role, to know what they were doing, and everybody was clicking on all cylinders. You score 140 plus against a Denver Nuggets team that, even though they've struggled defensively, they're pretty good at home, and they're going to give you a fight. Jamal Murray goes down, but regardless, the Knicks still played solid basketball, still stuck to their principles on defense, and still were fantastic defensively. That has been what this whole turnaround has been about with the Knicks. It's been on the defensive end. You have OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges making a difference on that end and turning off defense into offense, fast break points, things of that nature. Even the bench got involved. Tyler Kolek, Komdadier, they were fantastic off the bench, even though it was garbage time minutes. The vibes seemed to be very high on Josh Hart's birthday. You heard, them in the background during press conferences blasting music for Josh's birthday. It was very good vibes up until they got to LA. And again, this has been a microcosm of the Knicks season. They look great one day, and then the next day, you don't know. You don't know what team you're getting. And I know you can't win every game. I'm not saying you have to win every game. You can't go 82-0, but there at least has to be some type of consistency. The game after, everybody wants to claim you as one of, if not the best team in the Eastern Conference. You go out and lay an egg in Los Angeles. Out-rebounded, second chance points, offensive rebounds for the Lakers. You turned the ball over 18 times, not looking for each other. Mikal Bridges, a complete dud, 0 points, did not hit a shot. Jose Alvarado didn't bring the energy off the bench. Mitchell Robinson wasn't his usual self. For some reason, the Knicks just didn't bring it in Los Angeles, and it does not make any sense. Austin Reeves, after the game, commented at how they just played harder than the Knicks, and that's something you never want to hear an opponent say, right? It doesn't matter, if you miss shots. It doesn't matter if you play bad. You never want to hear your opponent say that they played harder than you, and that's what Austin Reeves said about the Knicks after the game. That's flat out embarrassing. The Knicks did not shoot the three ball well. I know in this league, shot variance means a lot. I mean, you could do everything you can, right? You can move the basketball, you can do whatever you can, but if you're missing three-pointers, you're probably going to lose in this league, and the Knicks were just terrible against the Lakers from three-point range, and maybe that has a lot to do with it, but there were other things as well. They just did not look like the same team in Denver that was connected. The Lakers ran traps against Jalen Brunson. He seemed a little hesitant to pass out of them. They weren't really moving the basketball the way that they typically move the basketball. They had some spurts in the second quarter that seemed to be themselves. They seemed to work back, and I think Karl-Anthony Towns had a really good game. Outside of that, though, not a lot of positives to point to. It just was not a good game in Los Angeles, and hopefully they get some rust because they have a good Los Angeles Clippers team on Tuesday they're going to have to face, and this road trip can turn very nightmarish very quickly. You win in Denver, you lose in LA, now you got the Clippers, you got a Jazz team that even though they're tanking, the Jazz have always been kind of a house of horrors for the Knicks, and it's not a game that I'm looking forward to. There's been disappointing losses in Utah, so for me, to salvage this road trip, I think the biggest game coming up is going to be against the Los Angeles Clippers on Tuesday. You can go 2-1 so far on the road. You get 2 out of 3 against the Lakers, Clippers, and Nuggets. You will take that. Those are 3 good teams. If you go 2-1 against those teams, great. That sounds great. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Maybe this is a mulligan. Like I said, you can't win them all, but you just want to see some type of consistency here. Like I said, Jason Tatum and the Celtics are back. James Harden and the Cleveland Cavaliers are, even though they lost to the Celtics, they're on the come up. And Detroit, even though they're struggling right now, they have been the best team all year. Things are getting serious, and the Knicks are going to have to start being consistent because this is not going to cut it. You can't be the best team in the league one night and then lose. I know the Lakers' record is what it is, but to me, is an average team. They haven't beat anybody great all year. This might have been the best win of the year for the Lakers. They have beat nobody all year. You can't let that happen when you play basically almost everybody too. So just to me, inexcusable. It is what it is. Going to have to find some consistency, but we'll see. Tomorrow we'll be back previewing Knicks Clippers. Stay tuned for that. Let me know what you think about this weekend. Let me know what you think about the Knicks versus Clippers going into the game, what you expect going forward, all that good stuff. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, drop a comment. I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of Knicks Latest. Peace.